Halo, karibu tena kwenye mafunzo yetu ya programming. Katika video hii tutaenda kuangalia namna gani unavyoweza kutumia input output library kuweza kupokea data kutoka kwenye standard input na kuweza ku-output data kwenye standard output. Kwa hiyo basi, kitu cha kwanza tunachoweza kuangalia ni kwamba je, hii standard input output ni kitu gani? Kabla kompyuta hazijawa advanced namna zilivyo leo, kompyuta zilikuwa zikitumia kitu tunaita standard input output. Ina maana nini? Hatukuwa na hii interface ambayo sasa tunaita graphical user interface, ambayo unaonyeshwa picha ngavu, vipicha ambavyo unaweza kuvitambua, una click, una swipe, unafanya nini. Hizi zote hazikuwepo. Ilikuwepo only black screen kama here. Sasa hivi huwa tunaita command prompt. Inakuwa hivi, ina maana hivi ndio kompyuta ya zamani ilivyokuwa. Kwa hiyo ili uweze kufanya kitu chochote ilikuwa ni lazima ujue command kwenye keyboard. Na chochote utakachofanya kilikuwa kinakuwa displayed kwenye hii screen. Kwa hiyo kama nikitaka ku navigate file, nitafanya labda dir, then nitaangalia mafaili yalivyo. Then nikitaka maybe ku navigate to another file, nitasema change directory maybe to desktop. Nikiamua kucopy something nitatumia command copy and stuff. Lakini kutokana na advancement ya technology ilionekana kwamba hii kwa user wengi inakuwa ni ngumu sana, kwa hiyo ndio ikaingia user interface. Kwa hiyo tunaposema standard input output tunamaanisha input na output ya namna hii. Ina maana ku-input data utaingiza kwenye keyboard na ku-output data uta-output kwenye screen kama hii. Ndio maana yake. Sawa? Kwa hiyo ina maana standard input output ina define some fundamental concepts. Sitazungumzia zote, lakini tutazungumzia function mbili muhimu: kupokea data kwenye keyboard na ku-output value kwenye screen. Kwa hiyo hapa katika mfano uliopita tuliona namna moja ambayo unaweza ukaprint value kwenye screen, ambayo tukasema utaandika neno printf. Kwanza lazima hii include iwepo. Pili utaandika neno printf, alafu cha kwanza, sehemu ya kwanza utajaza neno unaotaka lionekane, alafu koma, alafu utapass ile variable ambayo ina value unataka kudisplay. Kwa hiyo hizi zote zitaungwa kwa pamoja kwa kutumia hii printf. Ina code zitakazoweza kuunga hili neno kwa pamoja na hii namba, alafu zikasema namba hiyo ni something. Kwa hiyo itachukua hii value hapa, itaunga hapa, ita display kitu. Kwa hiyo hata nikibadilisha sasa nikasema printf namba maybe namba mpya ni percentage I and then comma, then nikapass 500, then it is going to display the number. Naona nimesema namba mpya ni 500. Kwa hiyo hii kazi yake ni ku display value kwenye screen. Sawa? Kwa hiyo ukitaka ku display value kwenye screen, utaweka neno printf, utaweka bano la kwanza, bano la pili, alafu utapass maneno unayotaka yaanze na hayo maneno, alafu then utapass ile namba ama variable ina hold your number. Lakini kuna kitu muhimu cha kuangalia hapa. Kuna hii tunaita formatting character. Tunaita formatting character. Kwa popote ambapo tutataka ku output number, then itabidi upass hii formatting character. Hii formatting character kazi yake ni nini? Kazi yake ni kuitambulisha hii value inayokuja kwamba si itegemee value ya nini? Itegemee value ambayo ni integer. Kwa hiyo percent ndio symbol inayotumika kutambulisha kwamba kinachofuata sasa ni formatting character. Sasa in order to print kila data properly, kila data ina namna yake ya ku represent hizi namba. Kwa hiyo C ili itambue kwamba tunatakiwa tu format labda float, then itabidi upass formatting character ya float. Kama utataka kupass integer, itabidi upass formatting character ya integer. Kama utataka character, itabidi upass formatting character ya character. Na kama ni string, itabidi upass formatting character ya string. Kwa hiyo kwa mfano hapa nikasema int float number. Let's say this is a float number, and then hii float nika initialize nikasema float number is equal to point, right? Then if I want to output it on the screen, then I'll have to say printf, and then the float number, okay, these are just the float number is, then I need to say percent. Now in order to display a float, you can use two symbols. You can either use %f and then pass the value float number, or you may do this. You may say the float number is you may also use %g. %g. So if I do this, I will be able to display the float number. So let's see. So here you can see the float number is this number, while this one, the float number is, so they have minor differences. This one has more decimals than this, but each one can be used to display the float number. And there are more, but I don't want, they are beyond the scope of this tutorial. So if you want to know more about them, you can browse through the documentation, and maybe one day if you need to use it, you can just check the documentation. Okay, so this is outputting a value to the screen. Now let's see how you can input a value from the keyboard. For example, if I want to input a value from the keyboard, so that instead of typing the number 500 here, I want to actually input it from the keyboard, then I use another function. It's called scanf. So I can say scanf, and then first thing I need to pass is a formatting character. And then a comma, and then I can pass, I need to pass the variable that I need to store the value that I'm going to get from the keyboard. So in this case, I want to scan a number, an integer. So I'll use an ampersand symbol to say that go and store in the memory location of number. So I'll say here ampersand number. But then I need a formatting character. For integers, we use %i. Right? So since I'm going to get a float number, an integer number, then I'm going to use %i. So if I run this, it is going to prompt me to enter a number. So if I do this, then it is prompting me to enter a number. We cannot see it very well because we haven't displayed anything to show that we need to enter a number, but it is there. So if I say 45, then you see, so the number hiyo ni 45. Kwa hapa unakumbuka tulikuwa tuna display ile number, kwa inasema namba hiyo ni 45. Kwa kama nitaingiza nyingine, then it will reflect. So if I run this and maybe enter some other number, right? And then press enter, then it will reflect, right? But as I see, it's not displaying in different lines. So you can also pass an escape character here so that each line will be displayed in its own line. So you can pass a character there, like so. So if I run now, as you can see, it is running like that. right? So namba hiyo ni 345, namba hiyo ni 500, right? So now this is not very elegant because we are not displaying anything to tell the user that we are expecting a number. So we can use now the output function to just display some instructions. Please enter an integer, and then we can put /n so that it goes to the next line. So now if we run this, it will first display output, please enter an integer, and then display the prompt. So if I run this, please enter an integer. So if I say that, then namba hiyo ni 5678. Sawa? Kwa kufanya hivyo nimeweza ku-input number from a keyboard. Nikitaka ku-input a float, then I'll do the same. I'll say printf, please enter a decimal. Please enter a decimal /n ili iende nani ya pili, iende line ya pili, and then I can use now scanf to get the value from the keyboard. So I can say %f, comma, and then ampersand. The float variable that we created is float number. So I can say float number. By doing that, I'm instructing the computer, whatever I get from the keyboard, to store it in float number, right? So by doing that, it will first ask me for the integer and then for the decimal, which is a float. So let me delete this one so that we have only the output for the number and the number and the float number. So let us run it. Now. So if I run it now, as you can see, it prompts me first for an integer, and then I'm entering an integer, and then a decimal. Then it says namba hiyo ni 4567, and then the second one is the float number is 67002, right? So as you can see, that is how these two functions work. Now, what if I wanted to enter a character? In order to enter a character, I'd do the same thing. Instead, I would want to change the %f to %c. So for a character, I'd say printf, please enter a character. Please enter a character, right? So that is just a way to display output. Now I can use scanf and then percentage. Now I can say %c because I am expecting a character. So for a character, we use %c and then @ But remember, we didn't define a variable for a character. So we're going to define it here and say char, my character. Right? So here we're going to say, please go and store it. Nenda kaistore kwenye my character. Kwa ina maana character yote itakayopokelewa itaenda kuhifadhiwa kwenye my character. Okay, so let's run it. So first itaomba character, but first of all let's output it so that we can see it. Printf, the character you entered is, and then we need to put a formatting character, %c, and then /n so that it goes to the next line, and then put our character, my character. So if I run it now, first of all it will ask for a character. So I'm going to put a G. Please enter an integer. Please enter a decimal. Right? So you can see namba hiyo ni 500. The float number is this one, and the character you entered is G. Right? So now, as we can see, this is how you can input and output these characters. So this is the end of our video for getting input from the keyboard and displaying output on the screen. Thank you. Stay tuned for the next video.